Yo, what's up guys, my name is Nick and welcome back to another MyTeam video. Only 3 races remaining and only 3 points in between the top 3, a lot of threes today. But we are taking on the United States Grand Prix this day. But before we can do that, we need to pick our rival to end our Season 3. And we're obviously going to pick Max Verstappen because he is our main rival at the moment. Max Verstappen is currently leading the championship standings, and Leclerc is in P2 and myself is in P3, only 3 points in between, as we are now putting on 2 ultimate aerodynamics upgrades, and that will make us the best team on the aerodynamics department because we can't upgrade anymore. Before we go out on track, of course, we need to check if our car is still in a good shape, and it's not. My ICE is, I think, 70%, somewhere around that, and my turbo is also very high, so we need to get a new one, and it looks like it's going to be a penalty. This doesn't mean that I have to start at the back of the grid. It will only give me, I think, a 10th place grid penalty, but we'll have to wait until that is done so that we can go out for only one run here in Q1 to make sure that we can try to start in P11, because if we get pole position, it would still mean that we will start in P11, as it says 10th place grid penalty for component changes. 3.5 minutes still remaining. Let's try to get ourselves up into the top 16. Of course, everybody has already set a time because it's only the last 3 minutes that are remaining. So we are heating up our tires to make sure that we can go into that top 16. I don't think it will be that hard, as the sun is very, very bright here in COTA today. And only half the grid is out on track. So if we can get up into the top 10, that would be great. If we can be in the top 16, it would still be good, but it means that it will be harder to get into the top 10 in the next part. But our lap is now starting, and as you can see, we are going through the first couple of corners. And by the looks of it, it wasn't that bad a lap. As I say that, I missed the apex by just a mile, and we missed the apex on the final turn as well. So luckily, there is still another chance for us, as we only go up to P21. That's not good enough if we want to start in the top 10. Of course, that's not possible with a 10th place grid penalty, but I can qualify there if I have the pace. So we are trying to do that in our next and final lap here in qualifying. We do have enough fuel, we do have enough ERS, so let's try it. But at the moment we're not really gaining time, and here this was a switching point in between losing time and gaining time. So now we are faster than we were before, and let's hope that will be enough to get ourselves up into the top 16. As qualifying is complete, we round up the final corners, and by the looks of it, we take a better lap this time. 1 second improvement, and it looks like we are up into the top 16. Yes, it's P12. So that means that we will start in P22 if we qualify in P12. So it's still not good enough. We need to make sure that we can get up into the top 10. Leclerc is at the moment fastest with Daniel Ricciardo in P2 and George Russell in P3. Oscar Piastri, my teammate, is in P7. So let's hope that he can get a good qualifying as well, because hopefully he won't get a penalty, otherwise we won't have a good weekend. But now in Q2 you can see the sun is even brighter than it was before, and we are starting our first lap. The first lap that we did was actually my best lap, so we only will see 1 lap in this qualifying, and I really thought that this was a good lap. So let's take a look. Through the first corner we go. And we go in fourth gear. Of course, these cars are now made for only 4th gear or higher. As you can see, through all the slow corners I go in 4th gear, because if I go into 3rd gear, it would mean that I would lose too much time to wheel spin, and that just wouldn't be good enough. Hamilton puts in, I don't know, a good lap, as we put in a better lap, as we go P1 for the moment. A 132.699, and my teammate crosses the line to go even faster. It's a 10 faster, and I thought that it was enough to get myself into the top 10, but it wasn't. Unfortunately, We are out in P12. That will mean that we will start at the back of the grid, of course, with our 10th place grid penalty. My teammate is in the top 10, so he will probably start somewhere around P5, P6. Let's just hope that he can do that, as we will start the Grand Prix right now.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Räikkönen delighted the world by taking the top step of the podium for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what, I wonder, is in store for us here today? It's the Circuit of the Americas then, situated 14 miles outside of the great city of Austin. This is a 3.6 mile lap with 20 corners, 10 to the left and 10 to the right, and top speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Overtaking opportunities are available into turns 1 and 12, especially with that rear wing DRS wide open. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty, and Fernando Alonso. Ticktum, Perez, Ocon, and Pierre Gasly. Magnussen, Norris, Oscar Piastri, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Albon. Liam Lawson, Stroll, Guan Yu Zhou, and Mick Schumacher. Latifi, the engineer, they've taken a grid penalty. Schwartzman and Yuki Tsunoda. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Of course, our teammate had to get a penalty as well, so he will be starting in P13 and we will be starting in P20, as a lot of other drivers also had a penalty, which is good for us because it will mean that we have to overtake 2 less people than we would have otherwise. So let's start this race. Let's make sure that we can get a few points, or at least a top 6. That's what I'm aiming for, as the lights are out and away we go. Of course, starting on the hards, that's what I did, because I started at the back of the grid, is not the best option for a start, because you will lose loads and loads of time in the first few seconds due to wheel spin and not up to temperature tires. So we have lost 2 positions, we are gaining them back right now, and as you can see, we are still in P20. I saw a bit of a wing in the first corner, so probably someone will have to pit in this first lap. As we move up into P18, we really need to put our elbows out so that we can overtake as many guys as possible as we go for a weird line onto the main straight, or the back straight I should say. And we overtake Schwarzman, who is on the soft, so it shows that you need to surprise your enemies to make sure that you can gain positions. As lap 1 is now done, Daniel Ricciardo is into the pits, and I think this was better for him than what happens here. Yellow flags it is. And it looks like loads and loads of drivers are out of this Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly, I think he was the driver who caused it all. Let's find out what happened. A safety car is deployed. Looking from Pierre Gasly's wing, he goes into turn 1 and he just crashes into the McLaren. And you can see everybody just stacks up behind each other, and there are loads and loads of DNFs. It's Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Lando Norris, Kevin Magnussen, Robert Schwarzman, Mick Schumacher, Guan Yu Zhou, Alexander Albon and Liam Lawson, who are all out of this Grand Prix. Only 13 drivers remaining, so those are 9 DNFs. That's a lot. I don't think we've ever had that many DNFs in one race. So that's a new record for us, and maybe someone will get a failure later on in this race. We'll find out in I don't know, the amount of laps that it takes for someone to crash or to get his engine blown up. But now, the safety car has been out for long enough. It's lap 5 and we will race again. As you can see, the restart is happening right now. We are in P8, we are on hards, and they are not that up to temperature. So we have to wait until we are in a few corners to make sure that our tires will heat up. And it's green light racing once again. We lose time to our teammate Pierre Gasly, who is in P7 at the moment, and we go wide in turn 1. It looks like we are not sticking. Oh my god, that was a lot of wheel spin out of turn 1. So now we've lost P8 to Yuki Tsunoda, and that shows just how much a difference there is in between the hards and the mediums. But if I can keep up with these guys, that means that I will definitely be able to overtake them once we get onto the mediums and they get onto the hards. Because if I am the same pace when I'm on a worse tire, then I should be way faster if I'm on the better tire. As Daniel Ricciardo tries to overtake me, here we go into the next corner, and it looks like Daniel Ricciardo goes for a move, but there's contacts, and it looks like Daniel Ricciardo has wing damage. Yes, it has. And we go to overtake a beautiful AlphaTauri, and as you can see, we are now up into P8 once again. 3.5 seconds is the gap to our teammate, and that's not good. We need to close that gap once again to make sure that we can become race winners. I don't think that we will be able to do that, as there are a lot of fast drivers out there. We are with 4 teams who are constantly fighting for the wins. Those are Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari and 95 Racing. If this is your first episode watching, then you might not know who 95 Racing is. Well, we are 95 Racing, as there is a new yellow flag. It's Yuki Tsunoda out of the session. He has a mechanical failure, so he won't be participating anymore in this Grand Prix. But that doesn't change anything about our race. So we stay in P8, our teammate's still in P7. I think it's Max Verstappen leading the Grand Prix, which isn't good for us, as he is currently 3 points ahead of us in the driver standings, and is fighting for the world title. So we need a good recovery on the mediums, and maybe even now on a few last laps on the hards, to make sure that we can get up there, at least top 5. That's what I'm hoping for, as my teammate and other medium drivers go into the pits to go for their one and only stop this Grand Prix. And as you can see, up to P4 it is at the moment. Perez, Alonso and George Russell haven't pitted yet, so they will be coming in next lap. And as you can see, it's now us leading the Grand Prix. Russell has fastest lap at the moment, and he is ahead of Max Verstappen. Only 3/10 separates them, but that will be enough for George Russell to win this Grand Prix and keep points away from Max. Alonso is in P4, so that's not Leclerc, who is currently 1 point ahead of me. So we really need to get ahead of Leclerc at least, because his teammate is doing a good job at trying to minimize the amount of points that he will get, as we are now in lap 16 and we are coming into the pits this lap. Onto the mediums we go, of course. We can't do the softs because there is too much tire wear for the softs around here, and I feel like I would get a puncture if I did it. So we come out in P8 once again. It's a position that we've been in most of this Grand Prix. And by the looks of it, we are 4.5 seconds behind our teammate, not Pierre Gasly, Oscar Piastri. And he is currently really close behind Perez, so let's just hope that he can overtake him. But it's not good if they stay in a DRS train, because that will mean that I have a more difficult job to try and overtake them, as in lap 18 I get a warning for extending track limits. But that doesn't matter, we do get the fastest lap. It's a 1:34.9, the first lap we ever do under a 1:35. And now in lap 19 you can see 2 purple sectors, and we are going for it. 1.5 seconds to our teammate, 2 seconds to Perez, who is just in front of him. Let's see what we can do with this fastest lap. Is it a fastest lap, or do we make a mistake in the final corner? We have a good apex, and out of the corner we have quite a good exit, and it's a 1:34.3. So that's better than we had before. And now 4 tenths to our teammate. Can we try to overtake him into the next couple of corners? It doesn't look like it into this corner, but maybe in the next we can try, as there is no gap in between us. We are still behind him, but let's find out if we can take a different line in the next corner to make sure that we can overtake our teammate and get up into P7. Yes, we do take the inside line and we go up into P7. That was so close between me and my teammate. It could have been damage and game over for us both if he was just a bit closer to me, but luckily he wasn't. So we are fighting for P6 at the moment. It's us versus Red Bull. It's actually just Sergio Perez because his teammate is in P2 at the moment. We go for the inside line and we take P6 just a few corners after we took P7. But it's not over just yet. There are still a few laps remaining and we can still take P5 or maybe even P4, as there's only a 3-second gap and we are still on the faster mediums. You can see lap 23 is right now. And Lewis Hamilton is only 1 second away from us. Can we still overtake him? He is not. Maybe he is within 1 second of Charles Leclerc and he will get DRS this lap. So we are not overtaking him right now as the gap is just too big. It's over 1 second even. But coming towards the final corner, you can see, oh my god, that was once again not the best exit out of there. And it looks like we do not overtake him this corner. Or do we do it? No, we don't. We try to go around the other side, but we are just too far off to make that work. So we still have to wait a bit longer to try and take P5. Still a few laps remaining, so no worries there. As we literally have to push him through that one corner to make sure that we get a good exit. We want to hold that line. And we now have DRS and ERS, not that much ERS anymore, but we push him onto another line where there is a lot of debris, and we try to overtake him, and we do so as we are now up into the top 5. That's all we want today. Can we take even more? Let's find out. 4 laps remaining, 4 positions still ahead of me for the win. The win, to be honest, I know that I'm not going to get that because that's still, I think, 7-8 seconds ahead of me, and that's just not possible. We can still take P4, and that's what we are going to do in the final few laps. As it's now lap 25, you can see within 1 second we are to Charles Leclerc, but it looks like he has some strong pace, and once again not a good exit out of the final corner. So we lose too much time to make sure that we can overtake him there. But now in the penultimate lap on the back straight, can we try to overtake him? We push him onto a defensive line. We go back to the racing line, and it looks like we are, wow, just wow. I want to say we are going to do the same as we did to Lewis Hamilton, but it looked like Charles Leclerc had a lockup, so that meant that we do not get past him cleanly, and we did actually get a bit of damage on our left front wing, but we are now in P4, and you can see lap 28 it is. George Russell wins the American Grand Prix and we take home P4, or maybe not. It's not over just yet. Oh my god, oh, we spin around. Did we take P4? That's a big question. Did we do it? It looks like we did. Oh boy, that was close. I felt a touch on my left rear tire, and it was actually Charles Leclerc who did that. He tried to pin me around, but that luckily didn't happen.
A truly magnificent drive and a great performance from the entire team, securing victory here in Austin. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Staying out of trouble was probably the most important factor here. In a race where half the field weren't classified at the checkered flag, you were able to guarantee a good result by keeping the car running. With their pace and a decent strategy as well, I don't think the race was ever really in doubt.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners.
So this is our podium for today. It's George Russell who takes the win here in COTA. Max Verstappen in P2. That's not what I would have wanted. I wanted Alonso in P2, but luckily it's not P1 for him. So Alonso finishes in P3, and that's our podium for today. Not a bad race at all. Starting in P20, finishing in P4. So I am happy with the result that I got today. Of course, a big crash in the second lap, and you can see we also got the fast lap, so it's 13 points for us instead of 12, and that will probably help us in our fight for the driver standings. Oscar Piastri finishes in P8 after starting P13, so that's not too bad from him, but I feel like he's just not there when I need him to, because 4 points is not enough to win a Constructors, as Red Bull and Ferrari are both ahead of him. Of course, as you can see, loads and loads of DNFs, and that all happened in the second lap. Now, in the driver standings, it's 6 points of, between me and Verstappen, and also between Leclerc and Verstappen. We are equal to Leclerc, but he is still in P2. The gap to Ferrari is at the moment 43 points, and I feel like with only 2 races remaining, that will not be possible. So we are going to focus on the driver standings to make sure that we can become world champion. Now, the next Grand Prix will be the Mexican Grand Prix, and if you don't want to miss that, then make sure that you like and subscribe, because that will mean that you will find out what will happen at the end of season 3. 2 races remaining. Let's find out who will become world champion, but that can only happen if you subscribe right now. Goodbye.